As the privacy campaigners stood their ground, another Edward Snowden leak emerged. It turns out that it's not just the U.S. that might have been prying into Germany's classified affairs. Laura Smith is in London with the details. Hi there, Laura. So tell us who's been caught out now.
Well, now we know, of course, that it wasn't just the US who was eavesdropping on the Germans. It's been revealed that Britain probably was too. This information comes from the Edward Snowden leaks, from NSA documents, from aerial photographs, and of course from past form. And it suggests that the UK has its own nest of intercepting equipment on the roof of its own embassy. So high-tech listening equipment on the roof of the embassy, which of course is in the heart of Berlin, not very far from the German parliament, not at all far from Angela Merkel's office. So really in the heart, intercepting communications potentially in the heart of Germany's government. It can, this equipment, intercept mobile phone calls, and it's well known that Angela Merkel conducts a lot of government business through mobile phone calls and also through text messages. It can also intercept Wi-Fi data and longer distance communications right across the German capital. So it's incredibly intrusive potentially. The Germans, of course, are up in arms about it. One MEP has said that the operation is clearly targeting politicians and journalists and questioning whether they really are enemies of Britain, if you like. And he says it's hardly in the spirit of European cooperation that everyone's going on about all the time. And of course, it's incredibly awkward for the British. Red faces all around. The British ambassador has been summoned to the German foreign minister to try to explain himself.
Well, of course, this isn't the first time that a close friend of Germany has been up to no good, right?
Yeah, that's right. We already knew about the US and their listening equipment, and it's basically the same deal. Equipment on the roof of the embassy, which if you see pictures of it, it's pretty obvious that it's there. It's a sort of white box. But apparently it's not visible from the street at all. And it's real spy novel stuff, all of this. The operations were staffed by people inside the embassy, but very few staff, and working undercover so that even their colleagues didn't know what they were doing. And the US has now scrambled to limit that damage by shutting down this intercepting nest. We know that from thermal imaging. We know that activity inside the nest has been significantly reduced. But of course, that's happened as these new allegations about the UK have emerged. And German and US diplomatic relations have really hit an extraordinary, relations have really hit an extraordinary low since this was revealed. And we can expect the same for the UK if the ambassador isn't able to provide an adequate explanation. And the first test of those relations, particularly between the US and Germany, is coming up next week. There's supposed to be trade negotiations between the US and the European Union. Understandably, those are now in jeopardy. And a European official talking to the Guardian newspaper said it's obvious now that the US and Germany particularly, but possibly the EU as a whole, haven't been doing business on a level playing field. So potentially incredibly damaging.
Well, indeed, and must be a very embarrassing situation for the countries caught red-handed doing that, and certainly not an easy backdrop for negotiations between the parties involved. Laura Smith, thank you so much for bringing us this update from London. And Jen Stomber from Germany's Pirate Party doesn't think his country's an entirely innocent victim.
The German government, of course, did notice what was happening on the rooftop of the US embassy and the UK embassy, because it's clear for everybody who looks at that building what's going on there. But I think that the German Interior Secret Service, they are not allowed to investigate on their allies. And this is simply because Germany right now is a third-class partner of the US, and they want to become a first-class partner. So our government is simply selling our privacy and their own privacy to climb up the ladder.